Okay, so I know you hear us say a lot that American Horror stories, not stories, the small ones, they remind me a lot of Twilight Zone. This episode was so completely Twilight Zone. And also, it put me in mind of, if you remember The Hitchhiker. Y'all remember The Hitchhiker from back in the day on cable? I think that was Showtime. The Hitchhiker. It either was Showtime or HBO. I want to say it was Showtime. But it reminded me of one of those episodes. Just so good. But this episode, listen, let me run the daggone intro. Hold on. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for American Horror Stories. This is episode 2 of season 2. And I had started rambling in that whole intro. Rambling and ain't played the intro. Anyway, now we got all that out of the way. Twilight Zone, Hitchhiker, Tales from the Crypt, all this stuff. All that good stuff. All that good, all that. So this is what this reminded me of. This episode is called Aura. And we open up Gabourey Sidibe. I said, Gabourey, hi, sweetie. So I'm saying, is she going to be Queenie? No, she's not being Queenie. She's not being Queenie. She's actually being Gabourey, playing a character named Jazlyn. Jazlyn is actually married to a guy named Bryce. He's a really cute guy. They have this nice little marriage going, and we see her shopping. She's out shopping, and we actually open into a commercial of Aura. It's like what Aura is. Aura is nothing more than those new little doorbells that you have with the eye. There's the camera on the outside, so you actually see, and it connects to an app on your phone. Those are okay. Those are okay. I'm not a fan of the app on your phone being able to unlock your doors. I just cannot get into that. There's a whole scene on the newest Scream movie where I'm like, that's exactly why I don't play that game. Where, she's back and forth and she's clicking the lock, and then the lock, and then the thing is beeping saying unlock, because they got the code and they going back and forth, and then they get her and get her. I said, girl, no ma'am, no ma'am. Playing with no cell phone. How many times you butt dial? Can you imagine butt dialing your house? Some kind of way you at work and you unlock your doggone doors? I don't think so. I can't even imagine being at work somewhere and then just happen to look at your phone and you don't even realize how long it's been and you've unlocked all your doors by mistake. I would just die. I would just die. But yeah, I just can't. I can't get with that. But anyway, back to the show. Down off my soapbox. But bam, and I'm back. Aura. That's what it's called, Aura. And it's the little camera on the front door and all of this. Very interesting. And Gabourey, Jazlyn actually, she sees this older man. He's like, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. It's got that. He's like, he said back in the day, somebody would ring your doorbell, or you get that knock on the door. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening, and you're like, oh, and it's just, you didn't know they were coming, but it's just a friend for dinner. Now, you get that knock on the door, you never know what's on the other side of that door. Somebody waiting to slit your throat and kill you. I was like, well, damn. Tell us how you really feel, sir. So she's like, oh, okay. So, because she was saying that she wasn't going to get it. It was like $200, and they were on sale. And the man told her, I'm telling you, it's worth it. So once he said that, she throws it on into the thing. Now, so she gets home. She's actually talking with Bryce. He's saying, come on now, we just moved here. And he goes into this whole thing of, oh, well, I know, you wanted to move here. It really wasn't in our budget, but we did it because you feel safer and all of that. We found out right away she's battling with some anxiety and some things. Something happened in her past. And she's like, well, she's starting her own business. She makes jewelry. She's a jewelry maker. And she has an online store. And she's like, you know, my store is going to be opening and I'll be able to cover it under my stuff. And he's like, okay, no problem. Then we go back, you know, we get these fabulous rebacks, you know, of the past 20 years prior. We go back in time and we see it's basically a home invasion. She's a little girl. She's laying in the bed. She hears this carryings on, and she looks up, and here it is. Someone has crawled in her window, and they have a rabbit mask on, and they tell her, shh, and they literally go through and basically assassinate her parents. And they didn't kill her, but they killed her parents, tied them up, gagged them, just brutal, you know, just senseless murder. So she's been dealing with this, you know, basically for most of her adult life, you know, for even through her teens and stuff. So we come all the way back. So her husband, he gets it all put in and everything. That first day, he ends up leaving, going to work. She's home doing her thing, and they made a point to say, you know, it's a longer drive for him to work. So there's some distance in between the job and the house, whereas they must have been closer before. So we got that, and it's a gated community. So just all these little nuggets. So just you have to remember all these little things. So he can't just get right to her. He can't, you know, she's kind of on her own, and it's just an extra added sense of security. And anybody that's been through something like that, hey, they need that. They need an extra added sense of security, and give it to them. So that was that. She's there. She's there. And she's sitting there doing her little thing. She got a little sale. She's like, this is great. Next thing you know, it's boop, boop, boop. And she hits the door. And you look, and here it is. There's this old man, baby. When I tell you that old bastard, he was looking some kind of way. And he's like, hello. She's like, hello, can I help you? He starts calling her by name. Jazlyn, let me in. Please let me in. Let me in, Jazlyn. Don't be afraid. I just want to talk to you. Just let me in, Jazlyn. I said, what's going on? Honey, she look at them. She go, and this was the part. I said, girl, why are you going to the door? She go running down to by the door, and all of this kind of carrying on. I said, what is you doing, honey? What are you doing? Because the first time she actually, and I skipped the part because the first time she did it, you know, no, she did all of that, and there was the whole thing. Let me go back because I done forgot some stuff. Let me go back. When her husband first put it in, they did a test run. Okay, so just forget everything I said, and I'm not editing this because we're just talking. You know, that's how I do my reviews, baby. We just talking. So I don't do no planning and all of this. So just forget I said all that. Let's go here. When her husband put the thing on, he puts it on the door, and they do a test run. He got his little hood on. He's standing outside the door, and he's like, knock, knock, knock. She's like, who is it? And he's like, hey, let me in, let me in. And she's like, okay, we don't know really right the way it's the test run, but I'm like, just too soon. But anyway, she goes and she opens the door, and he's like, well, you know, if it's an actual intruder, you're not supposed to open the door. So remember that little nugget. That's what I forgot. Okay, so boom, let's go. So she gets the call. She gets up. She goes to the door. Ding, ding. Didn't your husband tell you don't go to the door? Take her ass to the door. She ain't open it. But she's, you know, saying, hey, you know, who's there? So when she gets to the door, she opens the door. Nobody's there. Goofy opening the door. So she ends up, there's a raccoon outside, and the raccoon knocks over the garbage, had knocked over some garbage or whatever. So she walks down the driveway, and she opens, you know, she's picking up the garbage, and then she runs on back in the house. Now, I said to myself, this is how I ended up remembering that I had to go back. Because I was like, now, what kind of dumb shit is this? I said, well, we know you're not playing Queenie, honey, because you know better than that. You done walked away from the door. Now, whoever want to be in could be in now, because you done walked away from the door. I was like, girl, you going to get got. But that wasn't it. Nothing happened. That was that. That was the end of that. She goes back in. She closes the door. She starts doing something else again. Then the phone rings again. This time, she's like, go away. You know, look, it's the old man again, looking crazy. And he kind of looks like, the the guy that answers the door in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He looks like him, and he also looks like that man, like a version of that man that was on Poltergeist that came to the door and said, "God is in His holy temple." So, he kind of looked like a mix of them two. All in all, he looked like he should not be let in. Okay, get on out of here, honey. Get away from my door, you old bastard. That's what he needs. But anyway, so she's sitting there, and then he's like trying the door, and it's like turning the knob and all this trying to get in. And so she's like, "I'm gonna call the police." So she calls 911, and then it's this whole big thing. Bryce ends up coming home. Like I said, there's a distance, so they're showing us this distance. By the time Bryce gets there, baby, the whole everything. The police are there, this, that, thing, and the other, and it's just a whole big mess. The neighbor from across the street comes over. He's like, "Hey, I'm really sorry to hear about, what's going on and everything." And she's like, "He's cool." He said, "He's cool. I met him. Lives across the street." He says, "Maybe I can help." He said, "Because I installed a camera on my house, on the garage, and it has motion sensors and all that stuff. So maybe it caught your view of your door." So they go and they look at the camera, the police, and her and Bryce, and nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. So they're kind of looking at her, and the cops are kind of like blowing it off, like whatever. Because again, they live in this gated, neighborhood, and they're just like, "Child, girl, whatever." So everybody's pretty much blowing her off. Okay, so that's that. Next day, or maybe it's a few days later, same thing. Here we go again. Bryce is like, "Okay, this is getting crazy." This time, Bryce is actually there at the house when it happens. And the thing's ringing. He sees in the thing, he's like, nobody's there. Like, you know, what is going on? You know? And he ends up, he told her, because he grabbed the phone from her, was like, "Get away from here, go away, this, that, thing, and the other. Go away." And she's like, "He's there, he's there." And then you start seeing him trying to knob. He goes and gets one of those pokers for the fireplace. And she's like, "No, no, 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 don't open the door." And he's like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" So he's like, he gets all frustrated with it. He opens the door, nobody's there. He's like, "This is just crazy." So then he says, "I don't even know why I didn't think of this." He's like, it's a hacker. He said, "It's all, attached to the app on your phone. Somebody has hacked it, and they're really screwing with you, and that's it." And he's like, "I'm pissed," and that's it. He's like, he's like, just, it's horrible. It's horrible. So he ends up taking, and he, it's like, no problem. He rewires everything, changes the passwords, and all of that, all that stuff. And then they have this conversation. They have a conversation where he says, "Well, who would actually want to hack in? Who would it even be? What would really be going on?" And she says, "He kind of reminds me of this man when I was in school." And the man basically said he was kind of like weird, and he was like a janitor or whatever at the school. I'm in high school, and the kids would make fun of him. And she said, and I kind of slyly flirted at him, was a little flirty with him, but he took it as that, and I was very nice to him, so he always would speak. She said, but then it got to a point where it was like he was leaving me candy and stuff in my locker and all this kind of stuff, getting a little violating. And she said, and it got to be a bit creepy. So he scared me, and I just kind of like stopped speaking and stayed away from him. So Bryce was like, "Oh, okay, well, I mean, but that was so long ago. Like, are you serious? Whatever." So that was that. That was that. She went ahead and left it alone. She's like, "Okay, Bryce." Next thing you know, we see her driving out. We're like, "Where's she going?" She goes out. She going through stuff. She goes out, baby. Finds the man. Finds his sister. And goes to the sister's house. I said, "Oh, my God." And this house is just kind of, oof. it, mm, hermitish. If for lack of better words, it wasn't really like a hoarders type of situation, but it was just like older people who just were old and just ain't had a whole lot going on. And the sister was saying, "Listen, I don't know. He's been gone. He left. He's been gone for a while. I don't know. I don't know where he went, but he does this. He'll do sometimes he'll disappear for a little bit and stuff like that. But she said he's been gone for weeks and this kind of thing. And so she says, well, she told her this whole lie about how she was part of the student committee and they were putting together a reunion and maybe they wanted him to come and all of it. Just lies, okay? So she got all that together. So the sister said, well, come on. She's a nice lady. She said, come on, let's see what we can find. She said, because if you have a picture of him now, So she's going through stuff, and as she's looking, he has all these little toys and all this. He's a creep. He's creepy. He's a little creepy. But I don't think the situation was that he was like a child violator or anything like that. He just was a weird, geeky kind of person. He's geeky and freaky. That's just who he was. He had they were all like superheroes and stuff. So he probably was into like comics and different things like that. And then he was into computers. He was into computers. He did a little some stuff on a computer. Whatever. And that's what said. The sister said that he would be on a computer. Just couldn't get him out of it. Anyway, so he was missing. So later on after that, his name is Dale. His name was Dale Hendricks. She goes home, and she ends up having it. Here we go. Boop, boop, boop. The thing goes. Here's Dale out there because she seen a picture. She found a picture, and the picture, little creepy man. The picture, she's out there, and he's like, please let me in, Jazlyn. Don't be scared. This, that, thing, and the other, and on and on and on and on. And she's like, okay, and this, that, and the other. And he's like, I won't hurt you, promise. Honest, I just want to talk. I just want to talk. And she goes, she's like, you know what? I got to get over this. And that's it. He said, I just want to talk. She's like, you just want to talk? And they're like conversating over is that a word? Conversating? Conversing. Talking. I'm all in this. But because it's all flashing back to me, Charles, I go. But they're talking over, the thing. He's still on the other side of the door. So he says, I just want to talk. She said, you promise? He's like, yes, there's no need to be scared of me, Jazlyn. I just want to talk. So I was like, oh, God. So here she goes. She, again, she battles with anxiety and all that. So she's like, okay, get myself together. She opens the door. Nobody's there. She has this really pretty skirt. It's a really pretty flowy skirt, colorful skirt. Looked really, really cute on Gabrielle. And you can see this wind like blow this way. You kind of feel like wind. And I was like, what was that? So then she's like, oh, this is crazy. So then she goes back in the house. She closes the door. And she's in the house. And she's sitting around. And then the next thing she knows, she turns around and looks. He's back standing in the corner. I said, oh, how you get up in there, Joe? He's standing there looking suspect, honey. And they start talking. And he says, I just wanted to talk. And he said, I just wanted to say to you, sorry, that I'm sorry. And she said, sorry? He said, yeah. He says, I never meant to make you feel scared of me. I'm really sorry. I never wanted to make you be afraid of me. And she's like, really? Honestly, she says, well, how about this? I'm sorry because the kids, we used to talk and we used to be kind of like making fun of you and stuff. So I'm sorry too. So how about that? How about we both have apologized and we're both sorry for that. And now we can move on. And he looked back at her and I was like, uh-oh, child, because I thought now you playing games. I thought now he done got mad. I see you fuck her up, honey. But then blood came out of his eyes and then he just turned into ashes onto the floor. Later on, she's looking at the news. Here it is. Dale has been missing There was a missing person. Body found in the lake. Body was in the lake. So he was actually dead. That was the wind coming through the door. He came in, but he came in like as an apparition. It wasn't, an actual person walking through the door. He was on the other side, but he in limbo. In limbo, got something to do. Can't go, can't leave. So that was that. And all the time, she had actually been hearing other stories about other people who were having different strange things go on, and people having messages. And there was one video where the person was like, "Just let me in so I could kill you," and all this old crazy shit. And like, don't go to YouTube for everything all the time. You go to social media for stuff, child. So like, if you're feeling sick, here I go with my PSA. If you're feeling sick, don't go on YouTube. Don't go on the internet trying to diagnose yourself, because you'll find 52 things that are not what's wrong with you, but they will have you ready to lay down and purchase a casket. So, but anyway, said all that to say this, but boom, bam, and I'm back. Yeah, so that was the kind of thing she had ran into, but it was actually on. That was right. But anyway, so she goes searching some more. She finds out some things, okay? She finds out some things, and she is, it's weird. She's like, okay, cool, no problem, is what it is. Finds out something about a whole, she told Bryce none of this, okay? She didn't tell Bryce any of this. She found out that it's called a quantum entanglement. Something about the aura system and the camera. There's a quantum entanglement that, for some reason, has a tendency to connect with people who are in limbo. And she was like, oh, wow, okay. No biggie. It is what it is. So she's home, and the system kicks in. System kicks in. She answers the thing. There's a woman at the door. And she's like, hello? Hello? I don't know where I am. I don't know why I'm here. Please open the door. My name is Mary Jane. Mary Jane Burkett. I don't know why I'm here, but please open the door and let me in. And she's looking, and she's like, the hell is this? She's like, oh my God. So she tells her husband, Bryce, she's like, look again. He is like, what? So he's like, okay, I've had enough of this. He goes to the door, rips the door open. There's nobody there. He said, I've goddamn had it. He yanks the aura thing off the wall, takes it, and throws it in the garbage. He's like, I had enough of this shit. I had enough of it. Throws it in the garbage. Like, this is just ridiculous. Goes on. Old girl, she know what she know about what happened to Dale. She goes, you know how we do. She look it up. Mary Jane Burkett. She goes out. She finds out that Mary Jane Burkett was a victim of a hit and run at a specific park. She goes out to this park. When you go out to the park, you come out, there's a bench there, and her name is on the bench. They've like dedicated this bench to her. She was hit by a car or something, hit and run situation out here in this park. So they've dedicated this bench to her. And she's like, interesting. She says nothing. She goes on back home. She goes back home. Later on that night, her and Bryce are at home. Here we go again. You hear this boop, 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 boop on her phone. Bryce ain't paying no attention. Bryce said, what the hell is it this time? She came in the room and she said, Bryce, who is Mary Jane Burkett? Who is she? Who the hell is she? And she's like, huh? What are you talking about? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This, that, and the other. He's denying everything. And she says, who is she? And then he says, oh my God, okay. All right, fine. I wasn't going to tell you. He said, she's at the door. But she's not at the door for me. She's not asking for me. She's asking for you. and she's asking for you to let her in. And mm-mm. And so she says, see, Dale came and I let him in. He's like, what do you mean you let him in? She said, I let him in. And all he wanted was to apologize. She said, who the hell is Mary Jane Birkin? He said, I'm going to tell you, He said, she was my fiance. She was my fiance before I married you. And I just never could figure out the way to tell you about it, this kind of thing. So she's looking like, okay, well, maybe she just wants to talk to us and maybe say that she's sorry. And I think she kind of knew that it was a little more than that, okay? So she's like, all right. So he goes and opens the door and lets her in. No, Queenie went. Not Queenie, I'm sorry. Jazlyn goes ahead and lets her in. She lets her in because Jazlyn was able to do it. She let her in. And he's sitting over on the floor because he's like crunched down on the floor. And he looks over and he's looking at her and she's standing there with a baby in her hand. And he's crying. And she's like, what is it? What is it? What is she saying to you? So for whatever reason, I don't think she couldn't see Mary Jane. She says, what's she saying to you? He said, she was pregnant. I'm sorry, she was pregnant. This, that, thing, and the other, on and on and on. So he goes to telling the whole story. He goes back, and now we're actually getting the story of the actual hit and run, okay? Because he said, I just didn't know what to do. What ended up happening was they were having a fight. He was basically breaking up with her because he knew she was pregnant, and he was dumping her. He didn't want none of it. None of the baby. Didn't want her. Didn't want the marriage. Didn't want none of it. Okay? It wasn't time. It wasn't time. The timing was bad. And they're arguing, and then he's telling her, that's it. I'm done. And she's like, that's it. I don't care. He had told her that she got hit and run. She got hit. He didn't know nothing about it. That he told her to, she said, leave me here. Leave me. I'll walk home. And he said, no, you can't walk home. She said, just leave me. And he left her. That ain't what happened. Him and her were actually there. They were arguing. She was going to walk around the other side of the car, and a car came from nowhere and really did, bang, it hit her. And I'm like, okay, but I mean, so it really was like a hit and run. Because it hit her, and her body, she was like up the street, fucked up. She was fucked up. And then the car looked, and the car left. So it literally was a hit and run. It wasn't you. So what is the real issue? She was still alive. She was still alive. That bastard, that Bryce, he walked down there and stood over top of her. And she was saying, help me, help me. She was all old. The whole side of her face was missing. One leg was turned out, and she was just fucked up. And she could hardly talk, could hardly breathe. Bryce took his foot and put his foot up on her neck, baby, and crushed. He told her, I'm sorry. Till she stopped breathing. Got back in the car, baby, and drove one off. I said, oh. I said, no, baby, she ain't come here for no apology. I doubt very seriously that she just want an apology. I don't know if your situation will be the same, honey. But anyway, he told her, he gets up, gathers himself together, and he told old girl, Jazlyn, he says, listen, it was just a bad time. The timing was bad. Timing was bad. And your timing is bad. And he went over to get that poker, and he get ready to get her, honey. He done went the rear back to get her. Honey, Miss Mary Jane Birkin, honey, never put her baby down. She was standing there right next to Jazlyn, honey, and his neck gave. I said, oh, get his ass, honey. She cooked him and, honey, and he fell down on the ground, honey, and she twisted his ass up some more, honey, and then took her baby and went on, honey. Her, the baby, and him just turned into ashes, honey. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And these are the days of our lives, honey. Gone, honey. So I said, wow. 3 months later, we see our girl Jazlyn. She done moved into an apartment, nice apartment building, secure, and all that. And the man says, well, I just secured in your aura system. It'll act on your phone. She said, I didn't tell you I wanted that. I didn't want that. Child. He said, well, I'm sorry. Everybody has them. It's part of the contract for this apartment complex. Everybody has them. He's like, all right. He leaves. Shortly after that, it on her phone is saying your new aura system is now generating, and it generated, and then the thing was ringing, and she's like, okay, and she clicks the thing, and honey, somebody's at the door. Guess who's at the door? It's Bryce, honey, and Bryce is pissed, and he said, Jazlyn, let me in. He's mad as hell. I said, oh girl, so now he's trying to get you, honey. I said, the nerve, honey, the nerve. Anyway, but that's it. That's where it actually ended up. It was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was very Twilight Zone. Like I said, it was that Twilight Zone. It was really eerie. I was like, ooh. I was glad I watched it in the daytime. Because I don't know if I'd watched that at nighttime, I probably would have been like, go check my door, honey. But it was good. I ain't killed nobody up in no park, honey. I ain't, child. I be making folks mad. But I ain't killed nobody up in no park, honey. But I was like, oh, jeez. So it was really a good episode. So you know I love these. I do. I really do love these. And look, 2 down and however many more to go. Let's do it. Anyway, this has been season 2, episode 2 of American Horror Stories. This episode was called Aura, and I was so glad to see Gabrielle Sidibe. I'd have been more happy if she had been Queenie, if she could have broke his neck herself. Ha ha ha, honey. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. See ya.